Today's episode is brought to you by the Vegas Beer Guys. The Everything Sequel podcast contains explicit language. You have been forewarned. Hello and welcome to the Everything Sequel podcast, the Superman edition. My name is Mike Shantz of the How Dare You Awards. From Chula Vista, inside the tent, is Mr. Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions. Tom, you okay over there, camping out?
I just don't believe a man can fly.
Well, we are talking about the Superman sequels. Today, we are specifically talking about Superman 3. Now, if you've been with us since the beginning, you know that we're breaking these episodes up. You also know that we have segments called Rank Them and Good or Bad. I ranked these sequels 2, 3, 4. Tom inexplicably ranked them 3, 2, 4. But we both declared Superman 3 as good. Is that not right, Tom?
That is correct. I'm interested to know why you think it's good, because I think we might have different reasons.
That's very possible. And to be clear, you and I need to get this out of the way right now. There's a lot of nonsense in this movie. There's a lot of not good in this movie. This movie has just completely ridiculous moments that just are complete nonsense, you know? You have a 600-foot drop for Richard Pryor. Not even, I think it's thousands of feet on a set of skis that just doesn't have a problem with. The whole opening sequence is a problem. I mean, we could go on, and yet we both think this is a good movie. This is your favorite. You're really going to have to defend it. So where do we start?
Well, if we're starting with me defending it, probably the skyscraper is not the best place to start, but still, what I think.
Neither is that opening sequence. Let's talk about that.
Well, I take issue with you saying the whole opening sequence is a problem.
It does boldly declare what kind of movie you're going to see. I'll give you that.
And I say that is the basis of my defense of this movie is that we have a movie where.
It knows what it wants to be.
It knows what it wants to be. Richard Lester knows what he's doing as director. Superman 2 was two different directors with two different visions fighting against each other. And, most of the time it comes out okay, but, it falls apart at the seams a little bit. With this film, I feel like everyone is on this... I feel like everyone is on the same page. It might not be a page that you want to read, but it's the same page.
Okay, fair enough. Let's talk about that opening sequence, because there are so many moments for me where I go, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
But you seem to be a little more delighted.
Delighted.
Also, I should mention, for those of you listening, this opening sequence is complete slapstick comedy, but also includes a violent bank robbery, a man drowning in his car. I mean, it's just a violent sea rage of different levels of nonsense.
If you needed to know anything about this movie, you could get it all from that opening title sequence. I want to take it back just a little further to this movie once again, as with Superman 2, has a cold open.
Yeah.
It's a very different cold open. The first one was was action based science fiction. Here we're in an unemployment line with one of the most famous stand-up comedians of the time.
Correct.
Richard Pryor.
It's not, it doesn't, especially with the things we're going through now, doesn't give you the warm and fuzzies as a white woman is looking over this black man as though he's the laziest person in the world because he can't get a job or keep a job,
Yeah, I think it's such a strange start. I can see where Richard Lester and probably Richard Pryor are thinking, this is just a great vehicle to do a little bit of Richard Pryor stand-up. And, which is what everyone wants to see. His concert movies were so huge at the time. This was probably a very in-demand thing. So it
Well,
gives
and
us
it's
a
like his
vehicle.
stand-up is the only reason he's in the movie, essentially, because...
Well, no, I take issue with that.
Well,
I
because
think,
what I'm saying, though, is, I mean, like, first of all, we talked about Bill Cosby in the last episode. Like, what the hell's he doing on the wall? And
yeah.
really, the only reason he's on the wall is because he did a stand-up bit about Superman. Then you have Richard Pryor, who just happened to be on The Tonight
Yeah.
Show one night and said, yeah, I'd like to be in a Superman movie. So the producer said, let's do that.
Well, I guess for history's sake, I'm glad that they gave Cosby the cameo and Richard Pryor the starring role.
I'll agree with you there, for sure.
But yeah, so we're in an unemployment line, and again, if you wouldn't know that this was necessarily a Superman movie, have you just walked into the movie
Right, yeah,
theater?
for sure.
You wouldn't even know that this was a superhero or a comic book movie. I mean, my guess would have been Italian neo-realist film, British docudrama from the 1980s. I mean, it would be anything but that this is a Superman movie.
It also is a searing, like, look at where we were politically in the country at the time. You know what I mean? I mean,
it's that's I think the movie is setting itself up even at that point as a movie which is going to be unashamedly comedy and also social commentary, a very political
big social
movie,
commentary, right?
Which if you think about how the movie goes on, that's the movie you get. Do I think there's anything wrong with it in the context of this one film? No. Does it have anything to do with Superman or this franchise? No.
Well, and this is the key point to me about this movie, is even with the social commentary, even with, slapstick, even with things that just don't belong in a Superman movie, they all seem wadded up into like a ball and somehow still manage for me to work.
I think it's about how bold they come out of the gate as a comedy. The opening title sequence is basically, it takes place inside this fictional universe where silent movies
right
are the dominant
have come back to haunt us.
The dominant form of human interaction is only through silent comedy movies. So we have an opening sequence in which we're following a man who's going through a series of slapstick mishaps.
Right.
As the sequence goes on, we see Clark Kent, who then transforms into Superman, foils a bank robbery. And at that point, you sort of think...
Saves the guy in the car.
Yeah, here we go. We're into the Superman movie. That was just a little bit of slapstick fluff. But no.
We come back.
No, we go back to that man.
Yeah, we double down.
And he has more accidents. And this goes on for another 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It is absolutely extraordinary. And, I really think this is about,
So is it that it's part of the movie's charm? Is that what, is that kind of bottom line?
It establishes the fact, which I think is accurate, that this is a Superman movie where Superman is a minor character in the story. If you were watching the movie up to this point, you would think that this movie was about the man who keeps getting a cream pie in his face and walking into a bucket.
Right.
And you'd think that he was the main character.
But if you take
because
the movie,
we've spent more time on him than any other character in the movie.
Right. But if you take the movie on the whole, it's Gus Gorman's story, isn't it?
Yeah. He has the clearest character arc. I think he's got the clearest character development. This again, this must sound ludicrous to
he
anyone.
Changes from beginning to end.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. And this was one of the big criticisms of the movie, that he goes from villain to sidekick within the course of the movie. But I think it's actually one of the strengths of the movie, and it makes total sense to me. It's paced out nicely. There's reasons why he changes. There are some things that the screenwriters forget he does, which are very villainous. But I'll give him a pass. I think they were genuinely trying to be quite woke and progressive and saying like, this African American working class guy can be the hero of this story.
Right. Well, let's talk about if our listeners, if you haven't seen Superman 3, what the hell are you doing listening to this? But
You must think that we've lost our minds.
yeah. But this is a story where Superman goes back home, right? This is an efficient way, one, to get rid of Lois Lane. She's just gonna. Where does she go? Venezuela or
Bermuda?
Bermuda.
Yeah.
And what's her fantastic line at the end of the movie?
At the end of the movie,
Yeah.
she said they congratulate at the Daily Planet. They congratulate her on this great story that she stumbled into, and she says, "I knew I was onto something when that taxi driver kidnapped me."
Fantastic! I just love it. They get rid of her so efficiently, and like behind the scene wise, from what I understand, she and Richard Lester just did not get along at all, and that's one of the reasons she was gone. So we have Lois out of the picture, and we take on Annette O'Toole as Lana or Lana.
Lana, I think.
Lana Lang.
Let's not get stuck on that.
Yeah, but let's not dwell too long. And Superman goes home, and this, is a good portion of the story.
It is.
What'd you think of that?
I enjoy it tremendously. I mean, Margot Kidder's Lois Lane is wonderful. I think the right decision was taken to, give her a movie off, essentially.
Yeah, I like switching it up.
Whilst also, giving her, one scene split in half at the beginning of the end of the movie, which is interestingly what Charlton Heston insisted on for the Planet of the Apes sequel, which is, already there we're starting to see a trend here about stars demanding that they only be in one scene of a sequel. But I'm sure the decision was taken for the wrong reasons, but it actually turns out really well, and I love this idea of Superman going back to his hometown. I love the fact that Smallville is represented as this kind of this middle America that seems to be from Killer Joe or Winter's Bone. It is a savage attack on middle America. This bowling alley full of day drinkers and ex-football stars who are like turned into drunken sex pests. It's and it's ultra conservative. No one can get a job. The people who are threshing the wheat fields don't look where they're going and just churn up kids in their wake.
Right.
It's a hellscape.
Yeah, it's not. It's an unkind Smallville, to say the least.
Yeah.
And while Superman is in Smallville for his high school reunion, Gus Gorman, as played by Richard Pryor, goes from the unemployment line to becoming a computer genius and working for Ross Webster, played by Robert Vaughn. We have the new supervillain.
And this is, if you can't or you don't want to get the full complement of cast back, you need to, you need your, what I call the Pentangeli card. You need to have a direct replacement who is, up to the job. And, Gene Hackman for Robert Vaughn is a pretty good trade-off.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
I'm not going to say that Ross Webster is any Lex Luthor.
No.
We can't say that, but we can say that Robert Vaughn is completely, even though he's a villain, he's a bit delightful as this villain in this role.
I think, yeah, he does. Actually plays it relatively low key, and it's a really nice choice, especially with Richard Pryor scatting about rapists and his stern. His quote, ugly sister.
Right, we have
quote,
sort of
and the dumb blonde secretary, and with that kind of this sort of this rogues gallery of sidekicks. It's nice that he kind of takes it down a little bit, and he's sort of. He's a critique or a satire of corporate America, because he's a CEO of this conglomerate.
Yeah, he's definitely from Ronald Reagan's America.
Oh, yeah. And one of the ways in which this movie is a savage indictment of Reagan's America, but when he needs to sort of, similar to Terrence Stamp as Zod, when he needs to bring it down and be serious, he is pretty fearsome. He has a moment that reminds me of Michael Corleone in The Godfather, when he says, it's not enough that I win; they have to fail.
Right.
That's like straight out of the Michael Corleone playbook. And Robert Vaughn is definitely the person to do all that. And he fills that considerable hole in the story. And I think, I'm happy with the trade-offs here. It could have been a lot worse.
Absolutely. I mean, Robert Vaughn is like the precursor to Axelrod from today's Billions.
Yes. He's also got a touch of Mr. Burns about him as well.
Yeah, you do almost expect him to put the fingers together and say,
I know.
Excellent.
I do. There's a moment that I feel like if I was watching this late at night and I started to fall asleep, I would think that I'd accidentally turned on an episode of The Simpsons and Gus Gorman and Ross Webster were Lenny and Mr. Burns.
All right, well, we are just starting to get into Superman 3. We are going to go to a commercial, and ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back. Are you a beer novice? Are you a beer snob? Are you something in between? Wherever you lie on the beer spectrum, you can probably relate to Stephen J. Weiss and Dan Aker of the Vegas Beer Guys. The Vegas Beer Guys are a live show. You can find them on Facebook or Instagram. Check them out as they try new beers and learn about beers. Steve, being a bit of a beer novice, learns right at the feet of a beer guru like Dan Aker. They try beers and they'll tell you about beers. They'll tell you where to steer clear from and where you should be going. They're just a great time. You're going to have a great time watching them. Go ahead and check out the Vegas Beer Guys. And we're back. So, Tom, we both say that this is a good movie. This is your favorite movie in the trilogy. Well, not the trilogy, but the 4 movies. We're talking...
It's a sequel trilogy.
I was thinking of it as a sequel trilogy in terms of our purposes.
Yeah.
Well,
it's always been that to me.
Is that right?
I couldn't tell you what's in the original. I really
couldn't.
Apart from the parts that are recapped.
It's Superman 2.
Superman. So the
that
whole
are
movie,
so diligently put into Superman 2. Well, all right. We both like this movie. For me, there's so much nonsense in this movie, but I love the Superman fighting himself scene, and I actually love the climactic battle that I will forgive quite a bit. I'll forgive that there's a psychic nutritionist. I'll forgive.
That's a great gag. That's a nice little poke at 80s,
I kind of delight in these things. Like I delight that when Clark is home in Smallville, that Lana says, "What's it like to be in Metropolis, the big apricot?"
Yeah.
All these little jokes. The idea that what is it that he's giving all these tankers of oil. He's forcing them to go to one spot in the ocean with an unbreakable code. And then the very next scene, the captain of a ship gets basically the unbreakable code is a fax given to him that says go to these coordinates. Yeah. He's like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. And they make him the president because he made such a good choice in that situation. In the next film, you will see that man as the president of the United States. I don't know if it's to say. There's nothing to say it's not the same character.
So what? Yeah, I mean, but, so what is it in a movie where all of this ridiculous bullshit is present, but we just delight in it? Because by the 4th movie, I'm not delighted at all. So what is it about Superman 3 that is delightful?
Well, I mean, it actually builds on the strength of the cast, the remaining cast, and allows Christopher Reeve really to come in his own, and he plays a version of himself tainted by Camel cigarette.
Tar.
Yeah, Camel cigarette, tar, constituted kryptonite.
Right, which kind of goes back to the social commentary about how we should not be dealing with,
it's an anti-smoking message, and this allows him to become a character that I've always called Douche Man, who is this
he's a real piece of shit, isn't he? I mean,
but he's not like it's really subtle. He's not like an evil Superman. He's just a kind of slightly more jockey.
Douchey is correct.
Toxic masculinity.
He
Superman.
is toxic. He's day drinking. He's got doers. He's busting up glasses with his peanuts.
He's getting blowjobs at the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, he's like... there's this whole scene where there's like a sexual blackmail. That is pretty fucking dark for a kid's movie.
It really is. And what I like, it makes me think of... I do wonder whether when Quentin Tarantino was writing Kill Bill 2, and Bill has that fantastic monologue about Clark Kent is Superman's critique of human beings. That's what he sees us as. And I totally see that. I wonder whether he's thinking of Superman 3, because there's so many examples of that. I think at one point Ross Webster says Superman's turned into a normal human being.
Right.
It's sort of like he's no different from the rest of us, but that's basically a piece of shit. As soon as Superman stops doing like heroic things, everyone turns their back on him. The United Nations censures him. People start talking shit to him.
There's that scene where where he's in Smallville having a lunch with Lana Lang, and they find out there's an emergency, and she's like, "Shouldn't you go?" And he's like, "It'll be fine." And then it turns out it wasn't fine. He didn't get there in time, but human beings managed to save the people that were in trouble anyway. And he flies down, and somebody who would have praised him literally 10 minutes ago looks him straight in the face and goes, "You're late."
Yeah, if you'd have been here a minute ago,
we would have been fine.
And they figure it out themselves. I mean, we're trash. He's also trash. I think it's actually... I do wonder whether there's a slight critique of Superman 2, because even when he goes back to being regular, regular moral high ground Superman, he still refuses to acknowledge the fact that he's had sex with... Ross's psychic nutritionist.
Lorelei is the character.
He completely leaves her in the... she says, "Hi, Superman." He's like, "I don't know you." It's
that guy wasn't me, he says.
Yeah, that guy wasn't me. Which is classic, abusive husband stick. Anyway.
Yeah, there's also because Lana has that kind of a boyfriend character, or at least he wants to be with her, and he seems clearly like...
Brad.
Yeah, exactly. And he seems clearly like an abusive alcoholic. I mean, there is some shit going down in here.
Yeah, so that ability to sort of... It's an attack on a lot of different American values. I think it's any coincidence that the director is British.
That's why Tom's here, everybody. Point these things out. If anybody can point this out, it's the master of colonialism.
Exactly. But it's so, with all that going on, plus the fact Christopher Reeve is I think doing his best acting in the franchise, the scene in which he splits into Clark
so let's talk
Kent
about that.
And
Douche
it's
fantastic.
Yeah.
I just love this scene so much.
It makes no sense unless it's all going on inside his head, because they're equally matched in any way. But never mind.
Right.
It's a beautiful bit of psychodrama, and old Globe trained Christopher Reeve is absolutely magnificent in playing both characters.
The part he's like, come on.
Yeah, come on. You always wanted to fly, Kent, huh? I mean, he has one of those moments
great.
in every one of the film. He has a transcendent moment. So those transcendent moments, I think, it's basically this film sets itself no boundaries from the get-go. It says this is going to be all slapstick, all social critique, and even within that, it goes too far. There are moments which you cannot justify using either of those kind of defenses. I mean, if there's a mental image I'm fighting in defending this movie, it is the two people on the traffic
Oh,
signals
fighting each other.
Right. I mean, even in, if you saw that even in a Buster Keaton
and during
movie
that
or something,
sequence,
you'd be like,
yeah,
too far,
right.
too far.
And during that sequence, you're also actively hearing Pac-Man noises from like the Pac-Man video game.
Yeah. So it's very, but then I remember writing in my notes, anytime I think I'm done with this movie, and bearing in mind that there is a scene in this movie where a man skis off a skyscraper and survives, which to me should be the new Jump the Fridge. Skiing
Yeah.
off we should be talking about how movies are really skiing off
that
the
movie
skyscraper.
Ski-Fall.
Yeah. That movie really skied off the skyscraper. There's incredible moments and scenes. Richard Pryor confronting Robert Vaughn, telling him that, I need to get if we're going to be doing this bad stuff, I need to get a piece of it.
Yeah.
And, that I don't know whether it's because, so little has changed, but that scene sends a chill down my spine because it's those power dynamics and that's kind of economic and social inequality is still very, very rife, and intensified greatly in the last few years. And so that stuff really speaks to me. The fight at the gas station over fuel, a few years after America went through a fuel crisis, and this isn't a slapstick thing at all.
It's
this
like
is real.
people hurting each other, right?
And I think that it's always gonna have those moments that it's a balance.
I mean, the movie's just sort of chopped full of things that make you go, huh? But still manages
powers beyond reason makes a
fierce return.
From
because
Superman 2.
I remember we were talking about this, when on his way to Smallville, Clark happens upon a fire at an acid factory or, a chemical factory.
One of those acid factories.
And it just looks like a farm of acid for some reason.
Yeah.
And so he changes into Superman. He goes to a lake. He blows a chill over the entire lake and just lifts up that whole iceberg. And I'm always thinking, like, how is he doing that? He's just holding it on one end. Surely it would just break off. And what's the thought that comes to mind? Powers beyond reason. You don't need any more than that.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. We haven't even started talking about a supercomputer that is designed on the back of cigarette packets.
That's amazing.
And when they
paper.
zoom, because like in my head I'm like, oh, I like this movie, I'm gonna have to defend it. And when they zoom in to the drawings, I was like, well, maybe there are detailed blueprints on here.
No.
Nope, just a picture of a computer. Basically, these guys who built it must be absolute geniuses because they just took a picture of a computer.
Here's one of my favorite things in the whole movie that I only just noticed on a rewatching. So, they cut to the scene where it's being built, this huge supercomputer. So, listeners, we're getting to the end of this movie right now, right? And you're going to find a scene where workers are working inside of the cave to build this computer. And you notice that out of their pockets, they start putting down on top of a box or something all those papers that Gus Gorman, Richard Pryor, wrote the computer on. So it's not like they took those scraps of paper and then built blueprints. They just took the scraps and built the computer from them. Like they're actively looking at them inside the cave.
Yes.
It's so pure magic. It's great.
It is pure magic. I like the fact that the smartest people in the movie are women, people of color, working class people in general. Right. That's a good thing, but they don't try and justify that in any way that's plausible. But the duality of it is part of, as you say, the movie's magic. Gus Gorman goes from being a a guy with no education to a computer genius.
Yeah,
This is not a good. This is not a good Will Hunting situation.
No,
this
but
is
it does feel like
is...
a Mozart situation. It feels like
Yeah.
I just happened to never have sat in front of a keyboard before.
Yes,
and
exactly.
now I have.
Exactly.
And
so it's about opportunity
Yeah.
and access. So and Lorelai is a similar deal where she's kind of we find out in the course of the movie that the dumb blonde act in quotations
is in fact acting
is it's a facade, and when no one's around she's reading these dense philosophy books, and when it comes to the crunch she reveals herself as the smartest person in the room. And so the movie definitely has those moves in it where I want to support it. I love the fact that it ends with the brother handshake between Superman and Richard Pryor. I think that's a great moment of race relations in cinema. That's like James Stewart and Duke Ellington at the piano in Anatomy of a Murder. It's up there.
That is a bold statement. Well, let's talk about, because we're getting towards the end of it here, let's talk about the final climactic battle.
Yeah.
At least in the 3 sequels, is this the best battle? Does this beat Superman 2? Because Superman 2 has a great battle scene in the middle 3/4 of the way through, but then that last battle scene is just him kind of using his wits. It's not terribly exciting, but it's certainly enjoyable. I love this battle scene in Superman 3. I delight in it.
Yeah, I think it's great. I in general, I'd say I think the effects in this movie are the peak of the franchise, which is weird because it's the thing that the movie is least interested in.
Yeah.
and yet everything looks the best it will ever look in the Superman
I actually
franchise.
have a note here that says one of the notes I made was one of the trivia facts for this movie was when Superman comes and they're launching the missiles at him, in the climactic scene. And so the supercomputer is launching these missiles, and it looks like they're kind of playing a video game. They had to tell the people that made that video game sequence to make it look not quite as good because it looked too good to them. So they made him do it a second time and made it look a little bit worse.
Right. Do you think that they told the people who made Superman 4 that, and they just applied it to the whole
Superman
movie?
4 is a whole other ballgame, my friend. Whoa.
Yeah, but
you just wait. We'll get there.
We will get there. I think that probably the highlight of that scene for me, and it's again something which makes no literal sense, is the robot Vera, where Ross's dowdy sister is transformed into a cyborg a la Metropolis or the Terminator. Actually, pre-Terminator, so you're welcome, James Cameron.
Is it? Well, this is 83.
Is it not?
So,
okay.
Yeah,
no,
I think we're clear. It probably was an homage to the Terminator.
There's a poster for Blade Runner in the scrapyard where Superman fights himself, which is interesting.
One of the things I love in that final battle is, first of all, you have the acid callback. So that's how he That's how he triumphs. That's how Superman triumphs. But there's this moment where he's trying to get the lid open, and these, computer is sucking him in. I assume to, I don't know, put it in its womb or something. It's gonna turn him into a robot. And
we really needed that callback because they spent a lot of time talking about acid. In that scene. And I kind of
plenty
thought
for me as like an
11-year-old
kid. I thought to myself, I think we're going to see the acid again.
Well, I thought we would hear more about Ross Webster's socks, because he talks about his socks for about the same length of time as they talk about acid.
that he never wears the same pair twice.
Yeah. This is the big monologue that he's given, and I thought he would Superman would kill him with a pair of socks.
Right.
Or something.
I mean, in this climactic scene, you've got the missiles firing, you've got Superman dodging and weaving, you've got Robot Vera, you've got Gus overcoming, kind of coming to a new understanding of what he should do and who he should be. as Superman's lifting that acid, I love this part where the wires come out and cover his face.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
it's just such a cool looking effect.
It is, yeah. It all
It's
really
a great climax.
stands up. Yeah, it is. It's a really it's the most sci-fi I think the Superman franchise gets. It's the most purely sci-fi. S- y- uh, like I said, we're going back to like Metropolis, kind of science fiction, robots
Right.
and supercomputers. It's a great finale. Yeah, it's a great
It's
payoff.
just fantastic. So, a few interesting facts before we go here. Superman 3, directed by Richard Lester, uh, 11th highest grossing film of 1983, did not manage to beat out Staying Alive, another sequel,
Interesting.
which I'm sure we'll talk
Yeah.
about at some point. Another interesting fact that Christopher Reeve wasn't sure he was going to come back. Tony Danza was slated to become Superman. They were looking for people for Ross Webster. Their first choice was Alan Alda, and he said no.
Ooh.
How fun would that have been?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's much later. It's a few years after that he does Crimes and
Yeah.
Misdemeanors, where he plays a similar kind of mogul character. So I think, and Horace and Pete, he does a fantastic sort of bad guy. So I think he would have been wonderful, but Robert Vaughn's definitely the right choice. Do you think they just told Christopher Reeve that Tony Danza was going to do it to make him?
I don't know.
Just to,
It's,
just as a kind of bargain.
it is Hollywood.
If you don't do it, Tony
yeah,
Danza
it's not
will.
out of the realm of possibility. It would go along with sort of all the silly nonsense in this movie. One of the things I love about this movie is it doesn't seem to know what year it is. Gus Gorman is printing checks that say 1983. Superman goes to the Olympics, which was in 1984, and his class of 1965 is having their 20-year reunion, which makes it 1985. So despite that, and despite crosswalk signs battling with each other, and despite Pac-Man noises and ski falls, for some reason, this movie works.
It's a big argument for watching a cohesive film can sometimes be more enjoyable than watching a film which has great moments but doesn't tie together very well.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is Superman 3. Tom and I stand where we stand. This is a good movie. Tom likes it so much. It's his favorite movie in the series. It's
just
strange for me to like this movie as much as I do and still be baffled by that choice. But
just while we're talking about endings, this is worth noting that after we have this extraordinary finale, this kind of world-beating sci-fi extravaganza, the final shot of the movie is at the Tower of Pisa.
That's right.
Where two replica Leaning Tower of Pisa model salesmen who have since changed their business model to douche Superman straightened out the Tower of Pisa, and now they have straight, and he re-leans it, and it left. And what I love about this sequence, first of all, the boldness of the choice of like, this is a comedy movie, we're going to end on a gag. And a big gag at that. But the timing of the Italian who hits his own stall with a broom to John Williams' Superman theme is beautifully timed. I remember as a kid even thinking that, like, the chords come in at the exact moment he hits the broom. It's incredible sound editing. So I think that is, to me, that is the metaphor for the movie of like, it's like you're doing the wrong thing in such an extreme way that it justifies yourself, and we get back to that sequel thing, which to me, the rule of thumb with sequels is if you're trying to do things different, it justifies itself. I'm gonna die on that hill.
Yeah,
aren't
for
I?
sure,
Very
for
quickly.
sure. All right, that's it for Superman 3, ladies and gentlemen. Join us in the next couple of days. We'll be dropping our commentary on Superman 4, The Quest of Peace, the 1987
Quest for Peace.
cinematic abortion that ended the series. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, my name is Mike Shantz of the How Dare You Awards. We'll see you next time, and have a great day.